Good morning. Today is May 27th, Wednesday, 10:10 a.m. Today is the last Zoom session before your final exam. I think by now most of you guys have done your homework and your quizzes, and the only thing left is the practice final, and then after that your final exam is on Monday. So a few announcements. I didn't make a PowerPoint for this, but on Monday your final exam will be was it Monday? Yeah, your final exam will be open, and there's two test times. One is at 10 a.m. and the other one is at 1 p.m. And it's going to be 25 questions, and I posted up the practice exam on Alex. You guys have seen it, so it's going to be very similar to that. And yes, you can use a page of notes. So front and back, a page of notes. Does anyone have any questions on anything so far before we start on the practice final?
Oh, Professor, there's 2 DLAs that I didn't do. Can I still do those or no?
Yeah, you could do them. I think the last day to do DLAs is today the 27th. It's the 27th today.
Oh, okay. Okay.
After this,
thank you.
Everything is in this.
So yeah, today's the last day for the Math Success Center for you to do the DLAs, and they'll send me the updated list next week.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question too. I did the online quiz yesterday, and I checked this morning on assignments, and it shows one scored, the one I did, and one unscored.
Got it, right. Yeah, I actually have the quiz under 2 parts, so I just need to transfer one thing to the other. Yeah, so it's on my part, the grade book, so no worries if you did that. I was waiting for everyone to finish taking it before I transfer the grades over. But thanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put that on, and then you'll see your updated grade after I do that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Also a reminder, the final exam, the score of the final exam can replace your lowest scoring exam. So if there's one exam that you took that kind of bombed your grade, don't worry too much, because if you do well in your final, if you do better on it, your final exam will take that 20% of your grade, but also it'll replace your lowest scoring exam. So that's helped a lot of students in the past because they had one bad exam. So heads up on that as well. Yes.
Professor, I have a question. This is Kaela. What grade do you have to get on the final exam in order for it to replace a test that you didn't do well on?
Great question, Kaela. The grade that you need to get on your final exam to replace is anything that's higher than your lowest scoring. So if your lowest scoring exam was like 40%, if you get anything higher than that, it'll replace it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good question. So it's different per person. Any other questions? No other questions? And I am dropping your lowest scoring quiz as well, so that'll also help your final score. All right, and today, I think there were a few people that said that they still wanted to do a student spotlight. Who are any of you guys here that wanted to do a student spotlight?
Yes.
I'm sorry, who?
Kaela.
Kaela, okay, have you sent me your student spotlight yet?
I did. I sent it to you this morning.
Okay, and where did you send it to me, on Facebook or on Canvas or email?
Facebook.
Okay, on Facebook. Okay, so I'll have you do your student spotlight in a little bit. Anybody else? All right, if there's no one else, we will go ahead and get started on your practice final. So basically your practice final here, I'm going to share the screen. So your practice final exam is going to be very similar to your exam itself. And again, this has 25 questions. I will post this on a Canvas file after we're done with this class, with the Zoom session. 25 questions, and this version will have the answers as well. But of course, you have your version to do on Alex, which you could take an unlimited amount of times. And I would recommend you take it on practice exam and time yourself to see if you have enough time to finish it. So make sure your speed through it is appropriate. You guys have 2.5 hours to 25 questions. So it should be a good amount of time. Anyways, I just want to go through these questions real quick and then ask you guys which questions you guys would like me to do or for us to work as a class. So these are taken basically straight out of your previous exams. So number 1 The first couple questions are from exam 1. So we have the set notation, and we learn about intersection and union. Then we learn how to solve absolute value equations. So if you have absolute value, remember you have 2 answers for that. Then we learned how to draw a line. So how we draw a line in this question is to find the slope and the y-intercept. So you have to put this one in slope-intercept form before you find the slope and y-intercept. And once you have those 2 things, then you could draw the line. We have some word problems on mixture, and then word problems on distance, rate, and time, on motion problems. And these have 2 solutions. So this is where you would create 2 equations and 2 unknowns, and you would use either the method of elimination or the method of substitution. So both of these, you would use one of the methods. Then we went into the topics of polynomials. And with polynomials, we learned how to divide. So when you learn how to divide polynomials, this was using long division. So you remember that from your previous exam. And then we learned about factoring. So I only have 1 question here about factoring, and this question is using it only has 2 terms, so it's either the difference of 2 squares, the sum of 2 cubes, or the difference of 2 cubes. So you have to know those formulas, and I would recommend putting those on your note sheets. And there's only 1 question on just factoring, but then notice the rest of the questions, you're gonna have to use factoring in order to solve it. Okay, the next question is, how did you divide rationals? And of course, you have to know how to factor these in order to divide them. Hey, buddy. Sorry. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the next problem here, question 9, is how do you add rationals that do not have the same denominator? So again, you have to have them have the same denominators in order to add them. How to do complex fractions? How do you simplify those?
I got one.
Then the number 11, so now we're about almost halfway through the test. Then we talk about ratio, working together. So how to use rationals. So there's this equation on work. There's a formula on working that you utilize for the work together. And it's actually a really easy equation that we learned. Then we learned about how do you solve equations with radicals. So remember, you square both sides. How to use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic. So there's that I, right? The imaginary number you have to use in there. And then we went to graphing. So here we learned how to graph a parabola, the Hong Kong formula that we learned. How do you graph something that's an inequality? How do you translate a graph? How do you do composite functions? So this is the latter half. This is when we start going on zooming. How do you do composite functions? How do you solve log equations? How do you solve exponential equations where you need to use logs? How do you use the continuous exponential growth formula to solve a word problem? And then the last class that we just had, we learned about the midpoint formula. We learned about the distance formula. We learned how to graph a circle. We learned how to graph an ellipse. And we learned how to graph a hyperbola. So as you can see, the 25 questions go in order from what we learned through the beginning of the class to the end. So looking at all this, there's about 18 of you guys in the class right now. So I just want to leave it up to you guys. What types of questions on here stood out to you that you're like, oh, I hope we take care of that. I hope we address that.
I think maybe the first couple questions. I think maybe the first couple questions.
The first couple questions? So like which ones?
Yeah, I agree with her too.
Like maybe like the first 5, since we haven't really done those in a while.
Okay, so the first 5 questions. All right, so let's go ahead and do that then. Let's look at number 1 and 2. And Garrett is on here as well. There's 18 of us. I'm gonna just leave it as one session instead of breaking us up. Here's 1 and 2. Let me have you guys just work on that. See if you guys kind of remember it. And if you guys need help, I'm gonna have Garrett, if you're available, to
Yeah, I'm here.
and then I'll give you guys a few minutes to work on that, and then I'll come back as a group, and then we could talk about it, okay? Alrighty, so let's go ahead and look at number 1. So number 1 here, we have F and H. Find F, and this means intersection, right? So intersection H. Does anyone remember how to do this problem? So intersection means where they intersect. What do they have in common, right? So if you have F here and you have H here, intersection means what they have in common. Where do they overlap? The intersection. So that's what this means, and F and H. So here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw out what F is. Well, what is F? F is anything consists of all the elements of W that are less than 3. Here's 3, and it's an open circle on 3, and it's everything to the left of 3.
I think one of them had a equality as well, not just less than, greater than.
Oh, you're right. Thank you so much. There you go. W less than equal to 3. Thanks, Garrett. So then, therefore, I'm going to make a solid dot on that. That makes a big difference. The next one is 6. Well, 6 is going to be bigger than 3, so it's going to be on the right side, and W is greater than 6. And I have an open circle on 6, and I to the right. So then the question is F intersection H, what do they both have in common? Where do they both overlap? So when I look at this, where are the blue lines overlapping?
They never overlap.
Right, they never overlap, right? Since they never overlap, there's nothing that they have in common. The answer is the empty set. So the set is empty, so we write, we call this the empty set or the null set, where we put a 0 and a slash through it. Notice this is not the number 0, this means empty set. So that would be our answer for that. Any questions on that? All right, then the second one is F or H. So this is the or, so remember the or means if you have F and H here, the or is everything that's in H and everything that's in F. So it's everything in the whole shebang, right? So everything. So when you have an or, it means everything. So when I look at this, the answer is everything that's in blue, everything that I highlight as blue. So my final answer for this, if I was to graph the answer would be everything that's in blue, and everything that's in blue is 3 going, everything less than 3, and everything bigger than 6. So I need to write this in interval notation. So to write this in interval notation, it's this window and this window, right? So I need to write both windows in my answer. So here, when I write the notation, it's from negative infinity to 3. I close the bracket, union, and what is this going to be?
Open bracket.
Open bracket. From what to what?
6 to infinity.
6 to infinity. And infinity gets a open bracket. Right. Good. So that becomes your final answer. F union H, meaning everything. So union. So this is what it would be. So remember when you write interval notation, it's left endpoint and right endpoint. So if I were you guys, on my note sheet, if my teacher was allowing me a note sheet, I would draw this picture of like This means intersections. That means what they have in common. This means union, or the word or, right? The word or. This means the word and. The word or means everything. Okay. Is everyone okay with that? Any questions? All right, so thankfully you guys have a lot of examples for this on your Alex practice exam on Alex. So you could do many examples of this to make sure you understand how to do it. Now let's go ahead and look at number 2. So number 2 here, I have this absolute value. So we could do this as a class just in case you guys didn't have time to work on it, or in case someone did have time. What do you do first when we have absolute value equations?
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
They're allowing you to do that?
Huh?
So they're allowing you to do that?
No.
So what do we do?
You add 33 on both sides.
Great. You add 33 on both sides. So the first thing we do is we isolate our absolute value. You want absolute value to be sitting by itself. So you add 33 on both sides. Great. So 2w plus 2 is equal to negative 15 plus 33. What's negative 15 plus 33?
18.
What is it, 18? Okay. Great. So what do we do after we isolate our absolute value? Anyone remember?
Don't you have to equal it to negative 18?
Great, right. So what we want to do is, really what we want to do is now we want to get rid of the absolute value. So to get rid of an absolute value, remember there's that, when you have an absolute value, if you have absolute value of absolute value of x is equal to some number a, right? To get rid of an absolute value, it diverts into 2 different equations. One is the exact equation without the absolute value, and the other one is where you take that a and you make it a negative a. So that's what happens when you get rid of absolute values. So when you're dealing that with this, 2w plus 2 is equal to 18. So 2w plus 2 is equal to 18. To get rid of the absolute value, it has to divert into 2 paths. One is the path where it doesn't have an absolute value, nothing changes. And the other path is, like you said, you change the 18 to a negative 18. So remember, absolute values have 2 answers, right? So one of them is when nothing changes, and the other one is if the constant becomes a negative. And then now we can solve it. So let me give you guys a chance to solve that. Let me know if you guys get an answer. Did anyone get an answer?
You got 8 and negative 10.
8 and negative 10. So W is equal to 8 and negative 10. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Does anyone need that to be worked out? Okay, so everyone's okay with that? All right, again, this is your time. So again, if there's anything that you want us to work on or have questions on, please don't be afraid to ask. All right. Now let's go ahead and look at the next few questions. So next we have number 3. So number 3 is, how do you write the equation of a line, or how do you graph a line by finding the slope and the y-intercept. So let me just ask. Let me find. What's the slope-intercept form? Does anyone remember?
Isn't it y equals mx plus b?
Great. Y equals to mx plus b. And what is the slope and what is the y-intercept in that formula?
The m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept.
Right, where m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. So these notes here that I'm putting on the screen will be good things to put on a cheat sheet that I'm allowing you guys to have. Okay, so let me give you guys a chance to go ahead and rewrite this equation so that's in y-intercept form, and go ahead and identify the slope and the y-intercept and graph it. So I'll pause the recording as you guys are working on it, and if you guys have questions, speak up and Garrett can help you during that time. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get back to this. So in this problem here, when you rewrote the problem, what did you guys get? Y equals to what?
3x
3
over
over 4x
3 over 4
minus 3 minus 3.
minus 3. Are you guys all okay with that? Does anyone have questions on that? All right, so then therefore, what is the slope in this problem?
3 over 4,
3 over 4. And what is the y-intercept?
negative 3.
Negative 3. Okay, do you guys all agree?
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Great, so I'm gonna show you guys the graph of this real quick. This is number 3. So let's look at the answer. The graph should look like this. So negative 3 is the y-intercept. 3 over 4, you go up 3, and then you go to the right 4. 2, 3, 4. So notice, since it's a positive slope, you should be going uphill, right? So if you're drawing a graph that's going this way, know that you did something wrong. Since it's a positive slope, you know that you should be going uphill. All right, any questions on that? All righty. And again, if I'm going too fast or whatnot, please let me know. Again, this time is for you guys, okay? All right, now let's go ahead and look at the word problems. So the word problems, these are about, this is the first one is a mixture word problem. So when we're doing a mixture word problem, I could just tell because I see scientists, I see percentages, I see solution A and solution B. So mixture word problem, without looking at reading the details.
I can't see the problem.
Oh, you guys can see the problem?
I can.
Um,
I can.
Okay, Anthony, maybe your screen froze for some reason.
Is it on your iPhone or on your?
It's on my, it's on the screen share. Hold on 1 second. Let me try this again. I'm gonna screen share again. Screen share to Adobe. Okay, can you see it now, Anthony?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So mixture word problem, does anyone remember? So mixture word probably have to create 2 equations. Does anyone remember the 2 equations that we need to make?
Isn't one of them like a plus b equals something?
Right. So the amount in A plus the amount in B is equal to the total amount. Great. So it's like, if you have 2 cups of water, you just pour some in and pour some in. So the amount in 1 cup plus the amount in the second cup is equal to the total amount. What's the second equation? Anyone remember? So the second equation looks exactly like the first equation. Amount of A plus the amount of B. So first you start with the exact same equation plus the total amount. But what are you supposed to multiply next to each one of them? The amount of A times the percent in A plus amount of B times the percent in B is equal to the total amount times the percent of the total amount. So right there. Those are the two equations that, again, I would encourage you guys to put on your note sheets to remember the formulas for the equations. Once you remember the percentages, you need to change it to a decimal. So change these all to decimals, put them in the right places like a jigsaw puzzle, and then either use the method of substitution, the method of elimination to solve. So let me give you guys a chance to go ahead and work on this problem. And again, Garrett is online, so ask any questions, and I'm going to go offline as you guys are working on it, and I'll come back. Alrighty, so let's take a look at this. Can anyone help me out with writing out the equation?
A plus B equals 120.
Okay, A plus B is equal to 120. Great. So that's the first equation. So 120 is the total amount, because it says she wants to obtain 120 ounces of a mixer. So that's what she wants. That's the total that she wants, right? And A and B is what we don't know. Solution A and B, and that's why it's called A and B. Great. And what's the second equation?
0.70A
0.70A plus
0.95B
0.95B is equal to
equals 120 times 0.85.
120 times 0.85. Do you guys agree with Anthony? Does anyone have any questions with this? Right, so here, A times the percent in A, so it says she knows that solution A is 70% salt, that's why it's 0.70, and solution B is 95%, so 0.95 times B is equal to the total amount, which is 120, so it looks exactly like the first equation, times the percent in the total amount. So the total amount, she wants to obtain 120 ounces, that is 85% salt. So that's why that 85% is there. Is everyone okay with that? All right, so let's go ahead and either use the method of substitution or the method of elimination to solve this problem. Which one do you guys prefer? I'm sorry, substitution? Okay, so if we do substitution, here, what are we going to substitute? What do we do?
You could subtract A from the first equation.
Okay. So Anthony says subtract A on both sides to get B is equal to 120 minus A. So with the method of substitution, you let one variable equal to something so that you can substitute it into the second equation. Here's the second equation. And real quick, what's 120 times 0.85?
102.
What is it?
102.
102. Okay. So 120 times 0.85 is 102. Good. So now I'm going to substitute this into wherever I see my B. So I get 0.70A plus 0.95 times 120 minus A is equal to 102. Is everyone okay with that? Any questions? Wherever I saw my B, I substituted 120 minus A. And let's go ahead and solve that. 0.70A plus 120 times 0.95. So that's 114 minus 0.95A is equal to 102. Let me know if I'm doing anything wrong according to what you guys have. I'm going to combine like terms. 0.70 minus 0.95 will give me negative 0.25A. I'm going to subtract this to the other side. So 102 minus 114 will give me negative 12. And I'm going to divide both sides by negative 0.25. So I end up getting that A is equal to 48. Everyone okay with that? Any questions? So if you want to find out what B is 120 minus 48. Hold on, buddy. Is equal to 72. So here A is 48 and B is 72. Does anyone have any questions on that? On a mixture problem? Any questions? Alrighty, let's move on to the next one. So the next one is question 5. A jet travels blah, blah, blah against the wind, with the wind, blah, blah, blah. What is the rate of the jet in still air and what is the rate of the wind? So here, this is what we call a motion problem. So motion problem, we're going to create a chart. And we realize there's always something that's going with something, something that's going against. So we know that the formula for motion is distance is equal to rate times time. Distance equals to rate times time. Hold on, buddy. Okay. So since there's two scenarios for distance equals to rate times time, since there's two scenarios, the first scenario is going to be, say, with the wind, with the force. And the second scenario is going to be against the force. So when you're going with the force, the only thing that we have to be careful of is the rate. So the rate, when you're going with the force, is going to be, you're going to go faster, right? So it's going to be the rate of the object plus the rate of the force. So here the rate is going to be the object plus the force. Whereas when you're going against the wind, it froze. I don't know why. So when you're going against the wind, you're going to be going the object minus the force. So when you're writing out this word problem, you're going to be basically filling in this chart. And sorry, I can't really make a nice looking chart on here. So on your sheet of paper, make sure you have that chart where you have distance equals rate times time, and then you have it with and against, right? So here, we need to make sure we have letters for it. So here is the object minus the force. So that's just what we have to be careful of when we do this. So in this problem here, when you read it, a jet travels 5544 miles against the wind. So it's 5544 miles. This is a distance, right? 5544 miles is a distance. And that's where you're going to put distance for the with the, or I'm sorry, this is against the wind. So it's going to be in this second box. Against the wind, this is the distance. So distance against. In 8 hours, well, that's the time. So that's the time going against the wind. So against the force, you're going to put 8 right there. And 7144 miles with the wind. So again, this is the distance with. Here's distance against. So distance with is 7144 in the same amount of time. So that's 8 hours. So 8 and 8 both goes here. What is the rate of the jet in still air and what is the rate of the wind? Well, the rate of the jet is the object and the rate of the wind is the force. So let's let the jet be x and let's let the y be the wind, rate of the wind. So when you have the object plus the force, it's going to be x plus y. When it's going to be against the force, it's going to be x minus y. So go ahead and work that out. I basically went through half of the problem with you guys. Go ahead and work that out and see what you guys get. Alrighty, so let's take a look at this here. So this is what we have with the chart. So we're going to create two equations. So the first equation is distance equals to rate times time, right? And the second equation is equal to distance equals to rate times time again. All right, so what do we do? How do we solve this?
Can't you divide, well, you distribute 8 into x plus y and x minus y?
You could, right, so you could distribute it through, but what's an easier way of doing it? I heard you say divide something.
We divide everything by 8.
By 8, right. So you actually divide both sides by 8, then you can have something really simple. You get 893 is equal to x plus y, right? Here, if you divide everything by 8 here, you end up getting 693 is equal to x minus y. So here we just simplified this equation to make it look really simple. Is everyone okay with that? All right, so what do we do after this? How do we solve for this?
You could eliminate y because it's plus y and minus y.
Good, you could, so method of elimination, we add the equations and this will eliminate the y. So when we add these two, we get 1586 is equal to 2x, and this eliminates the y. Great. So then what is our x equal to? I'm sorry?
Isn't it 793?
Yes. So x is equal to 793, right? And then now that we know what x is, we could also find out what is y. How do you find out what y is?
Plug it in one of the equations.
Right, plug it into either one of the equations. And when you plug in what in either of the equations, we'll find out that y is equal to, and we get an answer?
100?
100. Does anyone have any questions or that or need that worked out? Okay, and remember, so is x the rate of the jet or rate of the wind?
The jet?
Right, so this is the jet, and y is the wind. So make sure you get those clear when you guys write it out. And if you guys had another math class that wasn't on Alex, I would make sure you write miles per hour, right? Any questions? All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next problem. All right, so the next problem here is number 6 and 7. So in number 6 and 7 here, we have number 6, we have a division. So let me give you a chance to go ahead and try the division. And remember, with dividing, we use long division. Let me have you guys try that. And then number 7, so let me just write this down. So remember long division. And remember the remote control for long division? Does anyone remember the remote control, what those operations are? First we divide, then we multiply, then we subtract, and then we repeat. Or drop it. Drop it like it's hot. And then we repeat. The 4 steps for long division. And then for this problem, you're going to ask yourself, is this a dot, a doctica, or soctica? Since there are 2 terms, and then you have to remember the formula. So dots is the difference of 2 squares. You guys remember the formula for difference of 2 squares? A squared minus b squared equal to a minus b times a plus b. So again, something to put down on your notes. If it's a difference of 2 cubes, it's going to be the difference of 2 cubes, so a cubed minus b cubed. And then there's a formula for that. Is equal to a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. And the sum of 2 cubes is a little bit opposite of that, but very similar. The sum of 2 cubes, again, is you're adding a cubed plus b cubed. And then the formula is going to be a plus b. So you start off with the same sign, and you change the sign. A squared minus ab plus b squared. So you want to ask yourself which one of it is it, and then you find out what is your a and what is your b, and you plug it in. So again, let me give you guys a chance to work on that, and then we'll come back together. And again, Garrett, if you're on, I mean, if you guys are on here, you're just not working on anything because you don't know how to do it, please use that time to ask Garrett questions. And then when I come back, then we can work on it together. But don't waste that time just sitting there if you're not sure how to do it. Make sure you ask questions. Alrighty, so let's take a look at this. I have this polynomial here, and we are doing long division. So remember what I said, that we're going to do division, multiplication, subtraction, and then drop it like it's hot. That's the remote control for long division. So first we look at the first term, we divide. 4x squared divided by x is what?
4x. 1.
Try to 4 squared divided by 4. I'm sorry, I wrote it wrong. 4x squared divided by x is
4x.
4x. Thank you. This becomes 4x. And then you multiply with everything on the outside. And what do we get when we multiply?
We'll get 4x and then plus 16, but you would subtract, so it would turn minus 16.
Great. So when we multiply, we have 4x squared plus 16x. And then now that we're going to subtract, we're going to put changes to subtraction side. And we're going to change this to subtraction side. So what do we get when we subtract?
5x.
5x, great. Then drop it like it's hot. And then rinse and repeat, right? So 5x divided by x, what's 5x divided by x?
5.
Great, 5. You multiply, when we multiply, we get?
20. I mean 5x and then plus 20.
Great. And then what?
Negative 2.
Okay. So we subtract everything, so we get negative 2. And that's the remainder. And that's it. So this is your quotient, and this is your remainder. Any questions on long division? Everyone okay? All right, the next question, number 8. So number 8 is to factor this guy. So the first question is it a dot, a doctica, or a soctica, since it has 2 terms and we want to factor it? So which one is it? Difference of two squares, sum of two cubes, or difference of two cubes?
Difference of 2 cubes.
Okay. Oops. How did you know it was a difference of two cubes?
Because I figured out that if you times 4 3 times, you get 64. And if you times 3 times, you get 27.
Great.
And then plus it has the 3 as the x to the third power.
Great. Excellent. Okay, so those are great hints of why it's a difference of two cubes. And difference meaning it's subtraction as well. Great. So difference of two cubes, this is the formula. Again, I would recommend putting this on your cheat sheet. So first we have to figure out, well, what is A and what is B? What is A and B? So A is the first term that's being cubed, and I heard you say that was 4, right? So 4 is a term that's being cubed. 4 is A. And what is being cubed for the second one? I heard you say it was 3, right?
Yeah.
Not just 3, but 3 what?
3x.
3x, right? So 3x is being cubed. So here, A is 4 and B is 3x. So now when you plug it into this formula of factoring, A minus B, 4 minus 3x. A squared is 4 times 4, which is 16, plus A times B, 4 times 3x is 12x, plus B squared is 9x squared. So the hardest part was really to figure out, is it a dots, a doctica, or a soctica, right? Like you spelled out why you figured out it was a doctica, and then after that you just figure out what's your A and B and you plug it in. Any questions on that? Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. So the next question here is 8 and 9. So let's look at 8 and 9. This is dividing polynomials. Or I'm sorry, dividing rationals, and the number 9 is adding rationals. So remember, when you have division, you're dividing rationals. What you need to do is change to multiplication. You change to multiplication by flipping the second number, the second fraction, right? So flip the second fraction. In other words, the reciprocal. And then you see a bunch of polynomials, so make sure you factor everything. And then you simplify, or in other words, cancel out and factors, top and bottom. Then you multiply across. Those are the steps to do when you're dividing rationals. Now, when you're adding rationals, either adding or subtracting rationals, we need to have a common denominator. You must have a common denominator in order to combine the fractions. So if you don't have a common denominator, so these are not the same, then you need to find the lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator is the product of unique factors. So again, very big, important factors in the denominator. So you got to factor, that means you got to factor these and then write down the LCD. And then once you have the LCD, you're going to rewrite each fraction with the new lowest common denominator. And remember, whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom, or vice versa. All right, so let me give you guys a chance to go ahead and work on these problems. And again, Garrett is online, so if you guys need to ask him questions, feel free to do so. Alrighty. So here I've actually written a few extra notes on here on adding and subtracting rationals. So you guys can see it here. Let's go ahead and work on these. So (14x squared plus x minus 3 over 4x minus 8 divided by 49x squared minus 9 over x minus 2. Okay, I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to zoom into my work here. So the first thing we're going to do is what?
Change the sign.
Change the sign to
Addition.
not addition, but
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Multiplication.
multiplication. Good. So we change it to multiplication. And if we change it to multiplication, what do we do with this guy?
Flip the fraction.
We're going to flip the fraction. Okay, so I'm going to flip the fraction. Everyone okay with that? Okay, what do we do after we change it to multiplication?
We factor.
Okay, factor. So when we factor this guy, what do we get when we factor it? It's a trinomial.
7x minus 3.
7x minus 3.
And then 2x plus 1.
2x plus 1. Do you guys agree? Okay, and what do we get on the bottom?
4 parentheses x minus 2.
Okay, great. So take out the GCF. Perfect. Multiplied by, so x minus 2 stays the same. How about this bottom here?
So turn into 7x minus 3.
7x minus 3 and
7x plus 3.
good. So this is a dots, right? A difference of 2 squares. That's great. Anyone have any questions on factoring? All right. So now let's go ahead and cancel out common factors. What common factors can we cancel out?
Seven x minus 3.
All right. Anything else?
X
X minus 2.
Ooh, I love canceling things out, right? So we are left with, in the end, 2x plus 1 on top, and on the bottom, 4 times 7x plus 3. And you don't have to multiply that out. You can leave it as it is. And that becomes the answer. Any questions on that?
Can I like the answer is getting cut off for me a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. Is that okay?
Sorry.
Is that
Oh,
better?
like to the right side more.
Here?
No, like the yeah, there.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Sure. Alrighty. So now let's look at question 9. So question 9 here says to add, and we need to have a lowest common denominator. And obviously this one does not have a common denominator, or is not written in common denominator form yet. So we need to do something to make it look like common denominator. So what's the else? So we need to find the LCD. So the LCD is going to be the product of unique factors. So we need to factor this. What do you get when you factor this guy?
3x plus 2 and x minus 2.
3x, what? I'm sorry, plus 2
Yes, and x minus 2.
and x minus 2. 3x plus 2 and x minus 2, you guys agree? Okay, and what is this next one?
3x plus 2 and x plus 2.
Okay, do you guys agree? All right, so assuming you guys agree, what would be the lowest common denominator then? It's the product of unique factors in the denominator. What are the product of unique factors in the denominator?
3x plus 2, x plus 2, and x minus 2.
Great. Right, so we write it as a product of all the factors, and we don't have to write 3x plus 2 twice because it has to be unique. Perfect. Everyone okay so far?
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to rewrite each fraction with the new denominator. So the new denominator now is 3x plus 2, x plus 2, x minus 2, plus 3x plus 2, x plus 2, x minus 2. So that's a new denominator now. Is everyone okay? So to go from the old fraction to the new fraction, what did I need to multiply by to go from the old to the new?
X plus 2.
Right. So what's missing here is that I need to multiply by x plus 2. So if I multiply by x plus 2 on the bottom, whatever I do bottom, I must do to the top. So I need to multiply by x plus 2 on top. So when I multiply by 2 on top, I get 2x plus 4. This one, to go from the old to the new fraction, what do I need to multiply by? What's missing?
X minus 2.
Good, x minus 2. So I also need to multiply by x minus 2 on top. With x minus 2 here. Okay, anyone have any questions so far? Everyone's okay? All right, so now I have the same denominator. So now that I have the same denominator, I can combine it. So I have 3x plus 2, x plus 2, and x minus 2. I could combine the fractions. So therefore, I could combine the numerators. So I get 2x plus x, which is 3x, 4 minus 2, which is 2. Am I done?
Yes.
Okay, almost.
You have to cancel out the 3x plus 2.
Right, 3x plus 2 is a factor. 3x plus 2 is a factor here. These are the same, so you can cancel out. If I cancel out, what goes on top?
A 1.
A 1, right? So the final answer is 1 over x plus 2, x minus 2. And that would be your final answer.
I have a question.
Yes.
So once you find LCD, can't you just cancel out the what they have in common in the fractions and then just multiply what's left over to the numerator?
So once you find the LCD, I'm sorry, say again?
Yeah, you would, like, let's say it's 3x plus 2 and x plus 2 and x minus 2.
Right.
And to the original problem, they would just have 3x plus 2 and x minus 2. So, like, can't you just cancel those out and then multiply x plus 2 into the numerator?
Sorry, I'm not getting what you're saying.
It's technically like dividing the lowest common denominator by the original denominator.
Dividing this lowest common denominator by this one?
Yeah, by the one you factored out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just cancel them out, and then what's left over would be x plus 2, and then you multiply it into 2.
Yes, you could do that. Yeah, you could think of it that way. But then at the same time, don't forget to keep the denominator.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could think of it that way, Anthony. That's fine. Great, good question. Any other questions on this? Alrighty, let's go ahead. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. Now let's go ahead and look at rationals or complex fractions now. So complex fractions, rationals. Remember, there's multiple ways of doing this. You might have learned it a different way from a tutor or from a SLA. But the way that I taught it in class is step 1 is to make it a simplified rational by multiplying everything by the lowest common denominator. So here I want to multiply, so we'll do this together, question number 10. So go ahead and copy that down. So if I want to find the lowest common denominator of this, remember there's a fraction within a fraction. What's the lowest common denominator of here? It's the product of unique factors, right? In the denominator. So what's the LCD of this whole complex fraction?
X plus 5 and X minus 1.
Okay, X plus 5 and X minus 1. Because this is a denominator, 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 denominator. They're already factored for you, luckily. So it's a product of unique factors, so it's this. So now I'm going to multiply everything. So in other words, I'm going to multiply everything by the LCD. And that'll result in a simpler fraction. So go ahead and try that. All right, so if we were to multiply by the LCD, and we said that the LCD is X plus 5, X minus 1. So remember, when you multiply, you always multiply by on top, right? You put it in the numerator. So I'm multiplying everything here by the LCD, which I'm putting in blue. So when you multiply it, what's going to nicely happen is that the denominator is going to cancel. I don't know why my screen is kind of blurry, sorry. So in this first fraction, what cancels out?
X plus 5.
Right, X plus 5 cancels out. So we're left with just 7 times X minus 1. What cancels out for this one?
X minus 1.
So I'm left with minus 4 times X plus 5. So is everyone okay so far?
Yes.
No more complicated looking fractions, right? Divided by, what cancels out here? X plus 5 cancels out, so we're left with
X minus 1.
1. Plus, what cancels out here?
X minus 1.
X minus 1, so we're left with 2 times X plus 5. So it's really kind of like a cleanup job, right? I kind of feel like you're just making something really ugly and making it look simpler. You're cleaning things up, and that's what math does. It cleans things up. So can I start canceling X plus 5 and X plus 5 here? X minus 1, X minus 1. Can I cancel things out?
No.
Hell no, right? So you can't cancel things out unless they're factored. So right now they're not factored yet, and so now we need to simplify the top and simplify the bottom before we cancel anything out. Let's go ahead and multiply through. Get rid of the parentheses, so don't cancel anything out yet. So hopefully you get something like this. So once you simplify it, you should get something like this. 3x minus 27 over x plus 9. Do you guys agree? Okay. Am I done?
No.
No, what can I do? Now I can factor it, right? Now I can factor things out, and I can simplify anything that has common factors. So I'm going to pull out a 3, so I get x minus 9. On the bottom, I have x plus 9. Are there any common factors?
No.
No. So I could leave my answer like this. I could have left my answer like this. And let me just double check this. This is number 10. I'm just going to double check my answer. Make sure I got all my signs correct. Something went wrong. What did I do wrong? I did something wrong here.
The bottom, you didn't put, isn't it supposed to be 2x plus x?
The bottom should be,
Yeah, like there's a x minus 1 and a x and plus 2x plus 10. So
Right.
it'd be 3x minus 9.
right, it
Or
should be 3x plus 9.
Yeah.
Right. So it should be good. So that's where my mistake was. It should be 3x plus 9. So if it's 3x plus 9, what happens when I factor the bottom?
3x plus 3.
3 times x plus 3, right. So now does anything cancel? So now here's my numerator and here's my denominator. The 3's cancels out. So my final answer is actually x minus 9 over x plus 3. So I made a careless mistake right here where I forgot to add x plus 2x is 3x, and that changed my answer, as you can see. See that I'm able to factor out the 3 and then cancel it out and then get my simplified fraction. All right, any questions with that?
For the answer on the Alex exam,
Uh-huh.
do they want us as the final answer or the one with the 3x minus 27?
Oh, they want it in simplest form. So
Okay.
if you can factor it out, then if you can't factor it, then you could leave it like this. But if you can factor it and cancel, then they want this answer.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be wrong. Good question. Any other questions? Alrighty, let's go ahead and do a word problem now. So let me share my screen. So word problem number 11. Working together, it takes 2 different size hoses, 30 minutes to fill a small swimming pool. If it takes 45 minutes for the larger hose to fill the swimming pool by itself, how long will it take the smaller hose to fill on its own? Do not do any rounding. So this is what we call a work problem. So work problem, not word problem, but work problem. Remember, if you guys remember, the formula is 1, so the job. So basically, it's the job divided by the time of the first person plus the job divided by the time for the second person, right? So the job divided by the time for the first. So I'll put job A divided by time of the A plus job B divided by time B is equal to the total job divided by the total time. So that's the work problem. In Alex, the job is always the same. Since the job is always the same, so maybe for college algebra class, it might be different for another math class, but because Alex is a little bit more simpler, since the job is always the same, then the formula is going to be a little bit more simpler. Instead of putting job A, job B, and total job, we just put 1. So we put 1 divided by the time of the first person plus 1 divided by the time of the second person, right? So again, instead of putting job, we just put 1. It's a little bit easier than a problem where the jobs are different. Here, all the jobs, it's the same pool that we're filling up. They're not different pools. So in this problem, it'll be equal to 1 over the total time. And the total time is just going to be time A plus time B, in other words. So that's a formula for the job. So working together takes 2 different hoses, 30 minutes to fill a small swimming pool. So this is working together. So this is working together. So maybe I should put here, instead of putting, I put here time A plus time B, I should just put working together, just to make it a little bit, okay, sometimes my pen doesn't work here. Anyways, so working together, that'll be 30 minutes, so 1 over 30. If it takes 45 minutes for the large hose to fill, so that's 30 minutes for the large hose, how long will it take, I'm sorry, 45 minutes, how long will it take for the smaller hose? So the smaller hose, we'll call that time B. So go ahead and create an equation. So we were to create this equation, it's 1 divided by time A would be the larger one or the smaller. So it takes 45 minutes for the larger hose. I'm gonna put 1 over 45. Plus 1 over how long will it take for the smaller hose? I'll just call that X. So I'm gonna let X be the smaller hose. Is equal to 1 over time together. So the time together is 30 minutes. So that would be the equation. Does anyone have any questions about that? So where X is the time of the smaller hose. Any questions? So when we go ahead and look at this rational, this is what it looks like. How do you solve this? What do we do?
We have to find the LCD.
Great. So we're going to get rid of fractions by multiplying everything by the LCD. Multiplying by LCD. What's the LCD of this entire equation?
90x.
90x, okay. We're going to multiply everything by 90x. So if I multiply this by 90x, the denominators are going to cancel out. So what do I get instead?
2x.
2x. Great, no more fractions. What cancels out here?
The x, you get 90.
Good. And then what happens here?
You get 3x.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that? Any questions? Right, subtract 2x on both sides, we get 90 is equal to x. So that means it takes the smaller hose 90 minutes to fill up the tank, which makes sense because it took 45 minutes for the bigger hose. The smaller one should be longer, should take a longer amount of time, 90. Any questions? All right, so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and give a chance for Kaela to share her student spotlight. Kaela, is it okay if I record this section?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right, Kaela, you're up.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Kaela Jones. If you don't know me already, starting with the left corner, I graduated last June from Milliken High School. There's a picture of me and my mom, and then just me by myself on the left. Moving to the top right, I'm 18 years old. If people are into like zodiac signs and everything like that, there's my zodiac sign. I'm a Cancer. There's a picture of me right there on my birthday last year. My mom took me skydiving, and it was awesome. So I'm an adrenaline junkie, just like my mom. So I like to like travel and do things like that. And then that's where we get into the bottom left corner. Last year, my mom took me on a trip as like a graduation present to Hawaii last summer. So there's a picture of me in the pool, and then another picture of the trees and stuff that I all took with my camera. We stayed in like a little hut, like in the I call it like the forest, because like we were in like a little cabin like in the trees where we stayed, and it was beautiful. So there's some pictures of me in Hawaii. Moving up to the top right, so right now I'm currently going to Long Beach City College for 2 years. That's my plan. And then my plan is to transfer to Tuskegee University. It's also in the corner. It's a historically Black college. And then down at the bottom, I put doctor because I plan to go into the medical field. I'm still deciding between going into sports medicine or gastroenterology, but I think I'm leaning more towards gastroenterology. If you don't know what that is, it's the study of the digestive system. And then on the bottom, on my free time, I like to spend time with my family and friends. So on the far left is my family, my 2 sisters, and then down at the bottom are my best friends. And then in the middle, it's just some things that I like to do on my free time as well, other than spend time with family and friends. I love to go to the gym. I love to work out. I'm a gym junkie. And then I love to roller skate, and I love to swim too. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kaela. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Kaela? How did you know you wanted to go into gastroenterology?
Because my mom, she's a nurse anesthetist, so she works with a lot of doctors, and she works at 3 different places. She works at Kaiser, South Bay, and then she also works at a GI center, which is a gastroenterology like base center, which is like amazing. So she always has like friends and doctors that are gastroenterologists that she works with, and she always tells me about it, and they always tell me about their experience. And I love it. It's different. It's something that you don't really hear a lot of people talk about when they talk about becoming a doctor. Most people, when they ask me about it, they have no clue what it is, and I have to tell them. So I like it, and it's interesting, it's different, and then a doctor, you're able to like provide for yourself. So I want to be able to provide for myself and my family, with or without a spouse. So
Very cool. Very cool. You seem like a very well-rounded person, Kaela.
thank you.
Any questions or thoughts for Kaela?
I have a question.
Sure.
Right now, since the gyms are closed, what are you doing?
Right now, currently, I'm using just out of my home. I'm just doing home workouts. So I follow people on Instagram, fitness models, and I use their home workouts, and I do it at home. And then I also use YouTube too. It's a great source if you're like looking for workouts to do at home. There's a bunch of stuff. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Pretty cool.
Way to be innovative.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Kaela, very much. All right, so thank you, Kaela. And as you can see, we probably went through about almost half of the practice exam. There's 25 questions. The latter half are things that are more recent that we've done. So hopefully that's more fresh in your memory. And hopefully today we were able to refresh your memory with the first half of the class material. So I'm gonna end this session a little bit early because I have a Zoom session at 12 o'clock with my math department. I'll make sure to, when I send out the recording of this, I'll also send out, hold up, say hi. I'll also send out the practice exam that we went through today with the answer key. So if you want a hard copy with the answer key, you'll have that as well. But again, it's also on Alex for you to practice, and you can do it an unlimited number of times for a grade. So from now until Monday, make sure you study, study, study. From now until Monday as well, if there's any old homework or old quizzes that you would like me to reopen for you, I would be happy to do that. So just message me on Canvas and let me know, or on Facebook. Let me know exactly which assignments you want me to open, and I'll consider this like a catch-up week since there's no other homework except for studying. Other than that, do you guys have any other questions or thoughts?
You said for the cheat sheet we could use front and back?
Yes. So you have
Okay.
each of notes with front and back. Yeah.
Okay.
So everything that's on the practice exam will be on the test and the final exam?
Yes, 25 questions. So 25 questions. Yeah. So they'll be the same topics.
Okay.
So no surprises. I really want you guys to pass this class. You're welcome, Sophia. Well, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for participating. And I'll see you guys Monday. And again, Garrett has office hours Monday to Thursday, 12 to 4 on Discord. So feel free to utilize him. Feel free to contact me anytime this week if you guys want me to do a video or if you have a question about anything, okay? All right, you're welcome, you guys. Take care, bye.
Have a good one, bye.
Good afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
How do I turn this off?
N.
Hold on, buddy. I'm trying to stop.
What's N?
I'm trying to.
And just, yeah, there. Why didn't you know before?